Okay, let me read out the quote of C.W. Mills. And I just told you that C. Wright Mills gave first defined what is sociological imagination. And let me read out the quote as it is. I will provide you the presentation at the end of the lecture. It will be uploaded on YouTube, and on the YouTube you'll be able to download it, or we'll also share it in the group. So you should be able to get the presentation and all of these in the group we'll share. So it shouldn't be a problem. Now, the sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relation between the two within a society. Remember, I was telling you how in the encounter case, in the police encounter case of those four rape accused, that is biography. That is the individual stories of their individual life stories of those four convicts. That's a biography. And you, like Shailaja said, well, they have psychological disorder. No, no, no. It's not just that simple. Their biographies are part of a larger history. Okay. And of, like I said, in the case of the startups, those successful people, their biographies are also part of a larger history. And the sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relations between the two within the society. Okay, so when all of those 25, 26 people from the successful startup entrepreneurs, when they come from a particular community, sociological imagination allows us to understand that relation, society and these individual biographies, these individual success stories. What is the relation between the two? That we will be able to capture. That is its task and promise. That is sociology's task and promise. It is both a task, that is what we are expected to do as a sociologist, and that is the promise that we will be able to identify those connections between the individual and the society at large, between the biography and the social history. Perhaps the most fruitful distinction with which the sociological imagination works is between the personal troubles of the milieu and the public issues of social structure. The sociological imagination works between the personal troubles of the milieu. Remember the war widow that I talked about? Because of war, because of the ravages of war, her husband died, she became a widow. It caused the milieu. The milieu is the war, the Kargil War, 1999. That is the milieu. That milieu caused personal troubles, right? She's been widowed. She probably won't have financial security. She probably won't have social security. She must be emotionally vulnerable. That is personal troubles of the milieu. And the public issues of the social structure. And what happens? The government comes up with a policy. It says, okay, we are going to compensate the widow. We are going to transfer land and property and wealth and some money in her bank account. This is what we do. But somehow that doesn't work very well because of the public issues of the social structure. The social structure in which this is happening is a patriarchal, patrilineal social structure in which instead of the public policy helping her, what happens is she becomes further victimized by getting married to a young man who is her brother-in-law, and probably she has no choice there. But see how the social structure interacts with her personal troubles. Okay, this as a sociologist we are trained to see, and as a public administrator, as an aspirant of an administrator, I want you to continuously imagine that you are a civil servant, because only if you imagine that you're a civil servant, you will see the society and its problems as a civil servant. And A, it will definitely enhance your performance in the examination. B, it will make you a much better civil servant. Okay, see things from the lens of a civil servant. And can you notice what the trouble is here? You imagine something you are trying to solve a problem, but instead it is that problem is not separate, but it is part of a larger public social structure, and it acts there. And as a sociologist, we should be able to understand the interaction between the two. Troubles occur within the character of the individual. Troubles occur within the character of the individual and within the range of his immediate relations with others. Okay, for that widow, she can't see the bigger social structure. She probably does not even she doesn't even know the term patrilineal. Now, troubles occur within the character of the individual and within the range of his immediate relations with others. This is an entire quote. This quote will be shared with you. It is good if you memorize at least a part of the quote. This is a quote that you can use in your answers. It will enrich your answer and enhance your performance, enhance your score in the optional. So, which is why I'm taking the trouble of actually going through the entire quote. It's a good quote. Troubles occur within the character of the individual and within the range of his immediate relations with others. Yeah, for that widow, it is within, for her husband died, she is feeling insecure, the government comes, gives her money. They have to do with herself and with those limited areas of social life of which he or she is directly and personally aware. For her, she thinks of only this much. Issues, on the other hand, the public issues, have to do with matters that transcend these local environments of the individual and the range of his inner life. There are bigger forces at play. There is a culture, there is a society. The society has its rules, norms, expectations, aspirations. Okay, and all of these influence what happens to the life, to the local environment of this individual, to his or her character. What happens here is in some ways influenced by these larger social structures. Okay, whether a particular young man who thought of a startup and who started a startup, whether it will be successful or not, is in some ways influenced by the larger social structure, which is which community does he belong to? Which caste community does he belong to? Which religion community does he belong to? Which class does he belong to? What do his parents do? What does his society do? Which college did he pass out from? These are all larger social structures. And they will have influence on whether this young man who started a business will it be successful or not. They also determine this, and as a sociologist we have an eye and we'll be interested to look at this, and this is sociological imagination, to be able to identify the relation between the larger social structures and local individual lives, characters, stories. The facts of contemporary history are also facts about the success and failure of individual men and women. Okay, the facts of contemporary history are also facts about the success and failure of individual men and women. When a society is industrialized, a peasant becomes a worker. Yeah, increasingly we are seeing this. I'll give you an interesting case study. Think of the women who go for labor. I don't know if you know this or not, but if you go to a typical big crossroad, it's called Chaurasta, Char Ka Rasta, big crossroads in India, early morning. Today, not in the pandemic, but generally, if you go early morning, say 6:30, actually even before 6:30, about 6ish, hordes of people in any big metro. I'm talking about not just anywhere else, but in big metros, large numbers, hundreds, usually 200, 250, 300, depending on the Chaurasta. There will be laborers standing there. Okay, trucks come, and there'll be a maestri, there'll be a gumasta, there'll be like a big guy, like a supervisor kind of a guy. He will pick today. I need 30 people. You, come. They will all get into the truck. They'll be taken to a construction site, and they will work the entire day for 10 hours on the construction site. Usually, the man is paid about 100 rupees. The woman is paid about 75 rupees, and that day is done. Next day, if they are lucky, they will be picked up. If they are not, they won't. Okay, these are all very real things. I'm not giving you a story or imagination. I'm telling you exactly what happens even tomorrow after the lockdown in a typical Chaurasta in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad. This is what happens. Visakhapatnam also it happens. Now, did you ever imagine the woman goes to the construction site, which means usually in a deserted place, even if it is in a place where it's a residential colony, it doesn't matter. There's a construction that's happening of a building. The men in India, they just go and relieve themselves. Toilet, They go wherever. They go to the street, they go to a nala, they do it, and they come back. What about the women? Did you ever imagine when these labor women they are working for constructing that site in a city? This is not a village where you think, oh, they can also go into the fields. No, no, it's not. I'm talking about in the city when the construction is happening, which means the toilets are not yet ready. They're working on the ground or they're building the structure. What happens to those women? Do you know what happens? They don't go to toilet for 10 hours. So they don't drink water in the morning before going to the toilet. And because they do this every day, they don't drink water, not a drop of water throughout the day. So at one level, when you think, labor, men labor, women labor, same thing. At most, we will discuss about, women get less paid less, although they do the same amount of work. There are many number of studies that indicate that, if anything, actually they do a little more work because they don't take breaks the way men do. Men take a BD break, they take a shy break, then they all sit together and they take little. No, there are some breaks that they do. Women don't even take that; they are continuously working. But interestingly, we only discuss at that level and we stop it. But as a sociologist, we will go beyond that. And we are asking what is happening to that individual female labor body when every day she doesn't drink water, she doesn't drink tea, she doesn't drink anything because she does not have a place to go to toilet. What is happening to her health and body? Do you know the kind of stress that is put on her kidneys because she cannot relieve herself for 10 hours straight? Now, this is an individual story of an individual female body and a laborer's body. But do you realize that this is within the larger structure of migration, of employment, of safe, secure workplaces? Okay, all of this have a role because in the West also there are women laborers. In the West also they work. How come they don't have the same problem that our female laborers do? It is because of the social structures that are surrounding it. Okay, and this connection is the sociological imagination. Let me now go back. When a society is I'm going back to the quote of C.W. Mills. When a society is industrialized, a peasant becomes a worker. These laborers are usually peasants. Back, they are agricultural laborers. They come and become workers. They come and become laborers. A feudal lord is liquidated or becomes a businessman. You must be knowing a lot of big businessmen in our country and definitely in our region, Andhra region and South Indian region. Most of them are actually big landlords. Due to our taxation structure, big landlords, big farmers usually can make a lot of money. And that is the money that usually they bring and invest in a business and they turn into big businessmen. A landless laborer, what can he come and sell in the market? He can only come and sell his labor. He can't sell anything more than that. So he is not going to bring capital and invest and become a businessman. No. Just because he was born in a family that does not own land, 90% he will also end up being poor. It is what we call an accident of birth. He is born in the social structure, he is born in a position, and very likely he will remain there. It is very difficult for him to move from that to a higher level. Okay. So when classes rise and fall, okay, these are classes, the labor class and the business class. The business class is called capitalists. The technical term which we will use in sociology is bourgeois. It is it is spelled as Bourgeioisie. It's called bourgeois. It's pronounced as bourgeois, which is the capitalist class, who you call typically businessmen. They own the business, and the laborers are called proletariat. All of this, like I said, I'll be giving the material. I'll be sharing it on the group. It will also be posted on the YouTube section in a couple of days. You'll be able to find them there. Yeah. So bourgeois and proletariat, business class, labor class. Okay. When classes rise or fall, a man is employed or unemployed. When the rate of investment goes up or down, a man takes new heart or goes broke. Okay. When wars happen, an insurance salesman becomes a rocket launcher. When wars happen, an insurance salesman, okay, it didn't happen so much in India because in India we don't force people to go to war, but in the US and in World War II, there is something called conscription, where every young able bodied man has to enroll himself in the army compulsorily. And when you do that, because there is a war happening. So, and this quote is given in the context of US, which is why, he's saying when war happens, an insurance salesman becomes a rocket launcher, a store clerk becomes a radar man, a wife lives alone. Like the example that I gave you, the war widow. The wife lives alone because in the war, either the husband is gone to fight the war on the battleground, or he died. So a wife has to live alone because of a war. A child grows up without a father. Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both. This is the punchline. I will repeat it. Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both. That child who grew up without a father because the father died in a war, you cannot understand his life without the context, without the larger context of war. That is the history. This is the individual life. Similarly, you can't understand the war without the individual stories that made the war. Whether they won the war or lost the war, it doesn't matter. But the individual stories make up the war. Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both. So that is the quote from C.W. Mills, and that is what sociological imagination means. I hope I'm able to give you a glimpse of what sociological imagination is. Um, we will keep using this term, we will keep coming back because while it is important for you to memorize, remember theorists, remember concepts, be able to for you to be able to perform well, you should also understand sociology intuitively. When you look at a situation, you should be able to think sociologically, and that gives an edge to your answer. Either you'll be able to answer some questions only because you have sociological imagination, and the other where there is a direct concept or a theory, your answer will look better if you have that sociological thinking, sociological imagination in your head. And therefore, um, we will keep every 2 3 lectures once, we will keep coming, we will discuss these case studies. These case studies that we do in sociology are important for your answers, because in your sociology answers, the more case studies you write, the richer your answer gets. I will tell you how to write it. You can't just randomly put your case study anywhere, throw it at their face. You can't just pick any case study and throw it at the examiner's face. There is a way to pick case studies. We will discuss those things. Um, and where to situate your case study, which case study is relevant for which answer. We will do all of that. But case studies really enrich your sociology answer, your essay answer, and your ethics answers. Also, you will be able to answer because of this kind of sociological imagination. You will have a much better handle on social reality, Indian social reality, for you to be able to give a much more nuanced answer in your ethics also, other than sociology.